Got it. Okay.
So welcome everybody to class number 4, session number 4 of our 4-session training on Empathy Circle Facilitation. Let's just go around quickly and say how you're feeling right now. So I'm feeling excited. Joshua?
I'm also excited.
Sarah?
Happy.
MJ?
Excited.
Natalia?
Good.
Jenny?
Good.
Zach?
I'm okay. I need to go exercise.
Okay. Anne? You're muted, Anne.
Bit rushed to be here and bleary-eyed because I've had a sleep and I overslept.
Okay. Katrina?
I'm feeling quite calm. It's very clear, very lucky.
Okay. Could somebody mute whoever's got a lot of noise going on? Okay. Karen?
Hello, I'm happy. Thank you.
Okay. Charlotte?
Good. I'm here. Good. Glad to be here.
Okay. Anish?
Bit anxious because of my internet connection. I'm excited.
Okay. And Bill?
I'm excited, but I'm also a little nervous.
Okay. All right. So, this is the final session of our training. Today is going to be very similar to the last session, which is we're going to do, after this intro, I'm going to ask if you have any questions from the previous session, just to see if there are questions on people's mind that they want answered. And then we're going to do practice the Empathy Circle intro again. So we'll break out into threes and practice the intro. You'll get 5 minutes each to do that. And then we're gonna do another Empathy Circle facilitation practice. So we'll break out into groups and you'll have time to practice being a facilitator. And when it's your turn, you can pick the topic that you want the circle to be on. And you can also choose if you would like to have some disruption during the circle for you to practice, dealing with challenges, and what degree of, if you would like any disruption and what kind of degree of difficulty you would like. So a couple things in terms of questions. There were a couple questions that were, actually there was one question that was put in the feedback form about what is the optimal size of a circle, an empathy circle. And so I thought I'd speak to that. So my experience with that is there are two things to consider. One is the amount of time that you have to do the empathy circle. The shorter the amount of time, the better if it's smaller, because people will get more chances to talk if there are fewer people in the group when there's very little time. Generally speaking, I would say the optimum size is 4 people plus a facilitator, and to go for 2 hours. And if you do that and you're taking 4 or 5 minute turns, people will get about 4 chances to speak. And my experience is that it's on the 3rd or 4th round of speaking that people really start to kind of go deeper, and they get past whatever their initial thinking is about whatever the topic is. But 4 people in the facilitator provides a fair amount of diversity. So one of the things about really small circles is you don't get a lot of diversity of experience. And so 4 people with a facilitator gives you a fair amount of diversity of experience. And if you have 2 hours, then you still get a fair amount of time to talk. So that's my experience with optimum size. Bill, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that sounds great.
Okay.
Just, I
And-
had one, I'm sorry. I had
Sure.
one question about the, because we talked about, and Anisha's internet is not great. So will we break out into 2 circles or 3 for the circle explanation? Should we just go?
For circle explanations, I think we should break into groups of 3.
Groups
So
of 3,
however
right.
many
Okay.
that
Got it.
is.
Okay.
We have 12, so that would be 4 groups of 3.
Right. Okay. I'll do
Okay.
that.
The other thing, so did that, does anybody have a question about optimum circle size, based on what I said? Katrina?
Yeah, I did a circle yesterday, and there were 3 of us, and about an hour and a half into it, I got a feeling that it was long enough, because from what you've just said, I think that I was right, because everyone had at least 4 turns to speak. But I raised this issue before because a lot of people are saying to me 2 hours. They haven't got 2 hours to spare. So if it was a smaller group, would you be okay doing it for an hour and a half? Say 3 people?
Are you asking me? You're asking me?
I'm asking, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
Sure. I mean, with 3 people, I think you could probably get, you could do it for an hour and still have a pretty good experience. And if I was doing it for just an hour, I probably would do maybe 4-minute turns or even 3-minute turns. That's the other thing you can vary is how much time people get, and that increases the number of turns that people get in terms of taking turns. Josh?
Thank you.
So I'm just kind of thinking about setting up at a farmer's market, and do you wait until you have a certain amount of people to do the circle? Like, if people are just kind of coming up, yeah, Bill, yeah. Let me know when it's a good time to start.
Yeah, no, it's different. I think we could also talk about, just the difference in like when you're in an action or protest or with a farmer's market. But I did do a farmer's market here near in Davis. And generally you're competing with a lot of other interesting things, namely food. You always lose out to food. That's why we have food. We have Hershey's Kisses or a little chocolate, say, would you like an empathy kiss or something like that. So you kind of have to do it on the fly. And usually it starts off with 1-to-1. So you start off with 1-to-1, and then sometimes there'll be a group or people get interested, and then you can move it into a circle. But at the beginning, if you get a 1-to-1 interaction, that's pretty good.
That's my experience too. I actually had this great experience of, I did an empathy tent at a community event. So, a lot of different tents around, and I was the empathy tent, and I had a long list of a schedule, empathy circle at 11 o'clock and noon, 10 o'clock and noon and 2 o'clock. And I had topics that I was thinking, people would come and do. Nobody came. People just wandered up. And like Bill said, you start a conversation with one person and then you say, oh, come sit down. And then someone else comes over and says, what are you doing? And you say, oh, well, you sit down too. And maybe you get 2 or 3 people. And in a public space, that's kind of how it happens, or it happened for me that way.
Yeah, but I will say though, the conversations that I had were very powerful. This Davis is at a college. There was a homeless college student who was kind of troubled and just really benefited from just having his thoughts reflected without judgment. I mean, you could see it. And another woman was heading for a big confrontation with a Marine, a former bomb guy in the Marines, who was her next door neighbor, and she had a pretty salty temper as well. And so she came actually twice, 2 weeks when we did it, and they resolved that, so it was very powerful, even though it wasn't a quote unquote circle.
The other thing I wanted to speak to was something that Natalia said at the end of the last class when we were sharing about the value of judgments, and how she was expressing a little worry that, you know, were our judgments not okay, and that there's a lot of valuable information in a judgment when someone gives it to you, if you can hear it, and that you know, she was worried that that judgments were not going to be okay. And I wanted to say that I agree with you, and that but in the context of the empathy circle, it's just that the reflector's job is not to judge what the speaker's saying. So the speaker could be as judgmental as they want when they speak. It's just that the reflector is not. So it isn't that judgments are not welcome. It's just, it's not the role of the reflector to do them. Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing I'll just say from a communication perspective, and this is kind of outside the empathy circle, that if you include a judgment in what you're trying to say to someone, generally it makes it much harder for the person to hear what you're trying to get across. And so in the interest of you actually getting across what's important to you, it's better if you don't include a judgment, but sometimes that's hard to do. So okay, any other burning questions people have before we get into our intro practice? Katrina.
So one thing that came up in the circle I did last night was the issue of confidentiality. So I wasn't sure, they said, well, maybe it would have been better if I'd started off by saying that everything that was said in the circle was confidential. Is that something that you do when you're not recording it?
So empathy circle practice does not include a set rule about confidentiality. And I would say, since there isn't, like in the explanation of empathy circle practice, there isn't anything about confidentiality, I would say generally empathy circles are not confidential. And certainly the public empathy circles that I did for a year in my hometown, we never said anything about confidentiality during the circles. So, but that isn't to say that you could never have one where you decide as a facilitator, I'm going to call this circle and I want to say that it's confidential, and you ask people to do that. I do think that if you're bringing together people that really don't know each other, and you're saying that it's going to be confidential, you know, you don't know whether people are going to hold that confidence. So it's still up to the individual person what they choose to disclose, you know, because you don't know whether people are going to keep that agreement or not.
Okay, thank
Bill,
you.
do you have any thoughts on it other than that?
No, I thought that was, you know, you framed it very well. Again, I come from the mental health field, so I tend to err on the side of more confidentiality. That's just my personal bias, but I think Lou explained it very well. And you don't want to give people false assurances.
Right.
Okay.
Natalia.
Yeah, on the same issue, without giving assurances, we can request the circle to be confidential, right? We can request the participants to keep it to themselves.
Yeah, and you, like I said, you can certainly say that as a rule and get everyone to agree. There's still the issue of whether people can be trusted to do that or not. And I think what Bill's saying about a false sense of security, as the facilitator, you just need to be careful not to cue people who might be naive about it, that they can count on the confidentiality being there, because the truth is you really don't know what people are going to do.
Can I say one thing about that?
Yeah. Joshua.
Yeah, I guess like the one thing, I mean, I'm not a clinical social worker, but even social workers who hold confidentiality, they still have a supervisor they talk to. So it's kind of natural to want to talk about what's going on here. And I guess you could say you're like, it's social working groups. We can say, I'll try and keep it confidential, but I can't take ownership for other people's actions. It's not really possible. Yeah. So
that's a nice way to frame it. Anish, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, actually, so I understand where the question is coming from, and I also see the limitation of a circle when it comes to the subject of confidentiality, which is why I was also putting myself into certain context. Like if I was doing an empathy circle within a family, would I choose to still record it, or would I choose to make it public? Like, and I know that the calls here get recorded because they are being used for educational purposes. I may not go back and record all calls, or I don't record actually any calls that I do as a circle. So I don't know if you can still hear me, because the message comes to me saying my internet is unstable. Okay, great. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So recording, we do a lot of recording. Edwin's very big on that. He's really big on transparency, and he's really big on propagating learning from recording calls. But I do many empathy circles that are not recorded, and probably most are not recorded. There is also there can be a benefit to recording an empathy circle and then letting someone who would benefit from listening to the circle hear it. There can be understanding created or healing created. Like, let's say there's a conflict and you have a circle and someone has chosen not to participate in the circle, so they're like, I'm not going to do that. And so you do it and you record it and then you let them listen to it. So a lot of times there can be great benefit to them hearing what happened, even though they weren't present. That's a strategy. Bill?
Yeah, and but generally, like when we were doing circles in XR, and there a lot of people are on the streets, and there are a lot of internal problems, a lot of stresses. It's a good way to, generally the default was not to record in those particular situations because they were talking about very personal things. So just it's your choice. But also when you say you're not recording, generally people feel a lot more open to share and things like that. So that's a cost benefit that you can assess. That's it.
Okay, so let's have another round of practicing doing an introduction to empathy circles. So we're going to split into threes, and each person will have 5 minutes to do an intro. And something that a good way, so something that I like to do in the group that I'm in is the people who are listening to the intro are listening as though you know nothing about empathy circles and you're just getting the information from the intro, and then you can ask questions. Like if you don't really understand it from what the person is saying, you can ask questions to help them clarify. That's one way to give feedback about what's happening.
So I just want to say, I have 3 groups of 4. Do you want me to make another group and then make 4 groups of 3?
I think so. I think that would be good.
All right.
That'll help reduce the time.
All right. All right. Amuse yourselves. Okay.
Okay. Maybe I can take this minute to just say that last time I got locked out and I didn't come back. And I really wanted to say to people from my circle that whatever I said in the circle was more from a role-playing point of view. Those were not my personal views.
I understand that concern, Anish. I did a big apology at the beginning of the circle saying, I'm going to do things that I wouldn't normally do. Just want you to know that. Please don't be offended.
Okay. All right. So there'll be 4 rooms of 3, and then one of those will be 4 people. Are we all ready?
Thank you, Bill.
And here we go. Sure. All right. All right. Okay. All right.
Of our facilitators, the fearless Bill Filler.
Good. All right. All right. So let's get. Anybody want to start, or would you like me to do it just to model it? Again, you can. I'll make mistakes, I'm sure. Whatever you want to do. Anybody want to go first?
Right on. I went first on Tuesday, so I can let someone else go first.
Okay. MJ, Sarah, you're muted.
I can try going first.
Okay, great.
See how I do. Okay, welcome. Welcome everybody. So I'm going to explain how to for a basic empathy circle. So as you know, an empathy circle is you practice experiencing empathy in a small group setting. So we're going to have several roles. There's going to be the speaker, and then the active listener, and the silent listener. And participants are going to be taking those different roles. So the process begins with the first speaker. So the speaker selects a person they're going to speak to who's the active listener, and then the speaker can basically share about the topic or whatever arises from their heart. So the active listener basically reflects back what they're hearing without judgment. It's just reflecting. You're not agreeing, you're not disagreeing, you're just reflecting back what you've heard until the speaker feels heard. Then it's the active listener's turn to become the speaker and select who they'll speak. Then the new active listener will reflect back what they're hearing. So usually it's about I'd say 3 to 5 minutes, and then there'll be a timer that goes off, and then someone's going to hold out like the phone, and then when you see that, you're going to know your time is up. We recommend when you're speaking just to pause every few moments, so otherwise the listener, to give the listener a chance to be able to hear everything you're saying and reflect back accurately.
Good. Okay. Zach, MJ, feedback? Okay.
So I think it's great. I can tell Sarah that you're reading from notes, and that's awesome. That helped you make sure you hit all the points that you needed to hit. And I want to ask, after having experienced it yourself, was there something that you wish you explained a little bit better, or that you felt like you were tripping a little bit?
I just wish I had it like coming from my heart extemporaneously. It's a little bit awkward for me if it's scripted, even, because I thought if it's scripted, it's not natural.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I basically could have tried to wing it, but I would have missed a bunch of things.
That makes sense. MJ?
I thought that was very well structured. It sounds easy.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. I'm actually been a college instructor, so I should know better. I usually try to prepare a little bit more by having to practice a couple of times to get an elevator speech together. So I could have done that too. That's one of the practices. You get your elevator speech so everything's in your head.
Right. Yeah, and I wouldn't worry too much. What I'm actually, what I'm finding, research has shown is that people, they retain more when they've kind of heard it 3 times. So what I try to do is that like on that first pass, and by the way, I think your explanation was fine. That's the first thing. Let's get that out of the way. It was just fine. So I try to go really sparse, like the basic things. And also I try to focus in on the active listener a little bit more, because that's really the trickiest part of it. And then, so I'll go through like a very sparse, and this is a process I'm still doing, explanation. Then when we get into the breakout room and I'm facilitator, I'll kind of add in a few things. That's the second time. And then probably if there's somebody who's not seen it, then we'll role model it. And that's the third time. And usually by that time, that's a pretty good onboarding thing. All right, that's enough for me. MJ, Zach? There we go. Okay, MJ.
Yeah. Welcome. Welcome to the Empathy Circle, this Empathy Circle. Empathy circles are a structured dialogue process by which it's based on mutual listening, mutual active listening. It's an opportunity for us to speak and listen to each other equally, and share how we feel. There'll be 3 main roles today. There will be the active listener, the silent listener, and the speaker. The active listener listens to a speaker for 5 minutes at a time and reflects back what they've heard from the speaker. The speaker has 5 minutes to speak their mind on the topic of discussion, taking pauses every few minutes for their listener to reflect. And the silent listener will be in the background listening at their own pace. Once the speaker has finished their role, the active listener will then take on the speaker role, and we will cycle through those positions. I'll be here as a facilitator, ensuring we abide by the rules and everyone is listened to equally. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we can get into it.
Great. Feedback for MJ?
Yeah, so like one thing you could try, MJ, is you could like give an example of like a reflection. And so like one thing that I do is like as an example, I would say like, okay, the speaker might share like, oh yeah, I was trying to make it to this flight and it took me forever to get through security, and then this happened and then that happened and that happened and I didn't get on my flight. And the listener reflects back saying, oh, you described that you encountered a lot of obstacles in getting on the plane and you weren't able to get on your flight. And so kind of just doing like an explanatory like model of a reflection could be a tool to use.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Sure.
I thought it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I really liked, MJ, what you added, and actually I'm thinking of adding it to mine to improve, is you talk about it's a listening process. And people don't, that's a really good framework to put it in, to really emphasize that. The only thing, and this sort of piggybacks on what Zach said, is that the tricky part is the active listening. And so as much as you can, like, what you try to do in a sense is you try to set the boat afloat, guide it in the right way, and just let the boat go, as far as the empathy circle group and process. And the less that you have to do, the more people kind of like, wow, so it is worth it at the beginning, I think, to talk a little bit about the active, like no questions even, the active listener, and just a few things there, because anything that you can front load there, you won't have to, it's easier to get it there. And if they get it, then you don't have to correct them. And then that's a sort of awkward position to be in, but just fine. Okay, Zach.
All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to Empathy Cafe today. My name is Zach and I'll be facilitating this cafe. I just want to, first start in describing a little bit of why we're here. We're here to exercise the empathy muscles in our brains and bodies. And we're doing that, we're accomplishing that goal with a really simple and straightforward process. It's a simple process, but it's a little tough to master. So don't worry about messing it up or making any mistakes. This is to learn a new skill today. And so in essence, what we do is something called reflective listening. And you can think of how we talk to each other today is we take turns being speakers and listeners. And speakers can take, we're going to take turns that are 5 minutes long today. And so the speaker can take that 5 minutes to share, anything that's alive for them, or they can focus on a particular topic if they want. And one other person in the circle will be functioning as a listener. And their job is to take in what they're hearing the speaker say, both the ideas and as well as like the emotions that the speaker is conveying. And the listener is responsible for taking little pauses throughout the speaker's time, maybe every 30 seconds or so, or every few sentences, the listener will, ask the speaker to take a quick pause and then reflect back. And so what does reflecting back mean? Reflecting back means, you may paraphrase or use your own words. You can also repeat the words if you want. The essential idea of what the speaker is saying, as well as the emotional things that are being conveyed, or the felt meaning is one way of describing that. And you're not, the listener's job is not to insert questions or comments or, you know, anything other than what the speaker is actually saying. And that gets to the crux of this, that we're practicing a more intensive level of active listening, where the listener is not concerned about their own ideas about the situation. They're taking a moment to put that on the shelf and really show that they're fully listening to what the speaker has to say, and can then describe back to the speaker what they heard them say. And that's a powerful thing for a number of reasons. And one reason in particular is that it actually helps the speaker focus on what they're trying to convey. And you can get deeper as a result of that. So just as an example of a reflection and how that can be done, you know, say a speaker is trying to say, yeah, last month I had to get on a flight to go see my mom because she was sick and I was really worried and I needed to go visit her. But it took 2 hours to get through security, and then the walkways were broken, the electric walkways in the terminal were broken, and the plane had issues, and so I missed my flight. And the listener might reflect back saying all of those things, or I hear you saying that you tried to go visit your mom, but there are a lot of technical difficulties that led to you missing your flight. And that's essentially it. It's fairly straightforward what we're trying to accomplish here. And if someone in the circle would like to start as speaker, I'd be happy to reflect you and just to demonstrate, and then we can cycle around each other.
Great. All right. Feedback for Zach. Sarah.
That had extraordinary amounts of detail. Mm-hmm. Wow. Very impressive. Would you be open to some constructive feedback?
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay. I loved your example. You know, your example of being in an airport and how someone shares a story about that and the reflecting back. That actually really captured me, and I think, you know, you could consolidate what you're saying in terms like you could actually just go and say, hey, here's an example of reflective listening without judgment, that's, you know, paraphrasing. Here we go. You know, and I would suggest you. It was such great information, and I'm totally with you. And then after a while, I was just I needed a pause, because remember,
I could feel it.
Everything. I mean, even the stuff had great gems, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like instruction requires real pacing, and I get that. Especially since, even though I had a relatively good string, I also noticed like my my cadence doesn't really shift a whole lot, and that's just like part of the reality of how I talk. And so that can, you know, so basically taking your feedback, I can think about actually just like pausing a little bit and choosing places in which I can do that for like a good pregnant 5 seconds or something like that, so people can actually soak in what's happening.
Consolidating, what you said, making, taking the essential points will land better.
Yeah, being more succinct, and yeah, thank you.
MJ, any?
Yeah, I also would have suggested maybe a couple pauses. Also, I felt the roles may not have been so clear, that like everybody will have a particular role all the time. You mentioned that there were speakers and listeners. That was good. But maybe a little more structure on how it cycles through the roles. And then also, this might just be my personal opinion, but I think with the example, it could actually be done through practice. I'm not sure if that's entirely needed, but that's just my opinion. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is totally valid. I missed naming active listeners for everybody else in the circle, that's what they're doing. And I also missed how the cycle goes, basically, in taking turns.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So what do you think people would rather, do you want me to do it and then you can critique me, or do you just want to have a discussion, or have, we're a little bit longer because we have more people here. Did you want to hear me do it? And then.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, all right. So, and this, believe me, there'll be room for improvement. So, okay. So we're going to be doing the empathic listening circle practice today. It's a different kind of conversation than one that you're normally used to. So I'll kind of outline it. It's fairly simple. The first role is the speaker, and the speaker usually gets a certain amount of time, usually about 5 minutes, but it can be somewhat flexible, to speak what's on their mind on the topic of the day or what's ever on their mind. It's important to know that if you need to sit in silence for a while or you don't know what to say, that's fine. And also you do have the right to pass as a speaker if you just don't feel ready to speak. But if not, just, speak and then you'll be reflected. The speaker chooses, a reflective or an active listener. The active listener's job is to reflect the words, the feelings, the values, things that you hear without judgments, even encouragements or criticisms or anything like that. Now, if you have any of those things when it's your turn to be the speaker, you can then say whatever you want. But as the reflective listener, we're just trying to be as pure a mirror to what the speaker is saying as possible, and and also mirror as much depth as we feel that we can. It's not a memory test. If you need to pause the speaker, you can ask them to stop. You can take some notes if you wish. The idea is, again, not a competition, but to build a communicative bridge. And if we need to do some different things to do that, that's fine. The other roles are the passive listeners, and they are just kind of listening and also tracking the conversation and, getting ideas for what they might want to say or whatever they want to do, but to just keep, tracking the conversation so that they can step in when it's their turn to either speak or be an active listener. I'll be the facilitator. My badge of authority is this little timer here. I also have a, a little thing. When I, stop you and, as a facilitator, it's not a hard close, as we say, but wrap up your feelings, your last, if you're the speaker, wrap up your thoughts, and then get a last reflection, and then we'll kind of move on. That's it. Feedback.
I didn't figure out anything that was missing there. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hit it. I mean, I could, one of the things I do say that's, because people don't know who to call on, is I do say at the beginning, like we try to get everybody, into, go around. So everybody gets a first round. And then after that, we try to speak to different, people as we go, but that's not an exact science. So, yeah. All right. Sarah, MJ, any other feedback, questions?
It was pretty good.
Okay.
Yours is pretty relaxed and easygoing and self-explanatory. Really nice.
Yeah.
Very, very relaxed.
Yeah. MJ?
Yeah, I felt very comfortable. I like your description of the time.
Yeah.
I think, that's a good one to include.
Yeah, that's it. And the other thing that I do say, I make sure that I say, and I left this out. So for one of the two things I left out was how the rotation goes. And the other thing I say is that if I do correct you or stop you, it's not a criticism of you or your ideas, but it's just to give you the circle experience. And you acknowledge that, you know, it feels awkward. It's not what we usually do. It's just something a little bit different. And that is proactively helped me deal with certain problems. So that's it. Okay. All right. I guess we'll go back to the main room unless there's something else. No? Okay. All right. Let's see if I can get this right without messing it up. All right. It just says close all rooms, and I'm looking. I guess that's just what I'll do. Usually they give you a message. I don't see the message. All right. Close all rooms. 60 seconds. All right. Okay. We lost a few people.
Maybe when they clicked leave the main room, they actually left the meeting instead of just the waiting room.
Oh.
That might have happened. That can happen sometimes. I've done that, accidentally clicked on the wrong button and left the meeting.
All right. Okay, now we're back, 13. All right, we're good. Okay, welcome back. So I guess we'll have a little bit short discussion. What do you want to say? With,
So are there any comments or questions about the intros? Anish?
So I see Anne's hand as well. I have a question about the intros. However, I have a question about the circles, so I can go after that if she has questions about the intro.
Anne?
It was great to hear other people practicing doing the introduction and have a chance to practice. Thank you. And to learn from just the different approaches. It was nice.
Yeah, it's always interesting for me to hear the variety of ways that people describe the process. And it's very rich, and there's always something to learn from it. So Anish, you had a question about the circles?
Yeah, so, and the question is about that. So I have tried the structured dialogue, the process that we use here, with a couple of different groups. One group who are absolutely new to listening at all, I mean, empathic listening and the concept of it. And that group totally loved it. They really enjoyed it because there was so much sense for it. And they were able to say, oh, wow, you're actually listening to me and reflecting back to me. And then there was another group, which was a little more probably experienced in empathic listening, and they have been practicing empathic listening for quite some time. And for them, when we just stayed with reflection of what we heard, it wasn't really connecting with them. And the feedback we got, at least I got, was, it looks like you're just stating what you heard and saw, or you're just stating back observations, but I don't feel that you really connected to the sense of what I'm saying. So that was a very interesting feedback that I received from totally different circles. So the question that I have is, even in the dialogue, are there levels where as a facilitator, I can get, looking at the crowd, I can modify myself? Because I've seen Edwin do it very well in the recordings that I've seen. With some people, he's just saying back the observations of what he heard people say in reflection or summarizing. And with some people, he just goes to a very deeper level. So how does it really work? Curiosity question.
Yeah, so I would say, so I'm going to say a little bit tongue-in-cheek that it is possible to develop some like empathy snobbery or reflection snobbery, that, you know, there are different levels of reflection, and that, you know, it's, well, let me backtrack. So I'll retract that. I will say that what's important in empathy circle practice, particularly as a facilitator, is that you accept people where they are in terms of being able to reflect back what they're hearing. So yes, in a circle, you'll have some people that have are naturally open-hearted people, and they will reflect back people's feelings, and they will reflect back some of the information. So generally, a reflection has some of the information about what the person is describing. You know, a good reflection, something about how they feel about it, whether they explicitly talk about their feelings or not. And then thirdly, something about why it's important to them, like what they care about, what values of theirs are being expressed in what they're saying, or what nonviolent communication calls a person's needs. What needs are they expressing in what they're saying? And I think explicit training in recognizing those components and reflecting them back is helpful. We don't try to do that. And I never try to teach people in an empathy circle about those things. Because what it does is it puts people in their head, and then they think there's a right way to reflect back, and they don't understand what you're talking about. And so then they become nervous about what they're saying, and that there's a right way or a wrong way to do it. What I do is, as a facilitator, I am reflecting back those things. So I'm modeling what a way of doing reflection. And my experience is that people start to, some people, not everyone, some people don't do that, but some people will begin to recognize those things as well when those things are acknowledged or reflected. So yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, I do think when I said before about kind of reflection snobbery, some people do have an attitude about, you know, this reflection is inadequate, or, you know, and I think one of the things to do that you can do as a facilitator is, if the speaker is not really feeling heard because a portion of what they are expressing that's important to them is not being acknowledged by the reflector. So for instance, let's say they're very upset about what they're expressing, and the reflector really just, you know, repeats back the facts of what they said. And then I might say, as the facilitator, and it also seems like you're very upset about this. Is that right? So I'm adding the component that's missing. But again, I'm also being guided by what the speaker is saying, what they're expressing, and then also whether they seem dissatisfied with the reflection that they're getting. If it looks like they don't really feel heard to their satisfaction because something's missing, then I will try to add it. Is there anything you want to add to that, Bill?
Yeah, I just, sometimes you can do like sort of just invite the person, if they, again, to really kind of reinforce what Lou said, you know, the last part, is invite them to correct you. Invite them to, oh, I must not have get, so invite them. Now, as a facilitator, you have to balance delving deeper with mutuality and the time limit. But that is another way. It's just sort of like, yes, oh, I didn't get it. So let's get it, let's go into it. Like, what did I miss? And that can be very rewarding. I love that when people just correct me until I get it right. So it's kind of like a little holiday for myself. But maybe I'm revealing too much about myself. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, and in that way, the reflection process is somewhat self-correcting, in that, you know, if the listener, the reflector doesn't get it, the speaker can say, well, no, you missed part of it. Sometimes speakers are reluctant to do that, to say anything negative, and in which case that's another thing facilitator can do. Like if you think a big part is being missed and the speaker's not willing to say it, you could say, so I'm wondering if there's this part also that was important to you.
Okay. So just to, we were going to talk, oh, there's Natalia again. Okay. And,
So did that answer your question, Anish? Or is there
sorry.
more? It's good? Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, I got so much more than what I was anticipating. So thank you.
Okay. And
I have a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
So the reflection, the listener is supposed to reflect everything that's said, or is it, so if someone misses something as a reflective listener, but doesn't add something, but just misses something, that's in this process, that's when the facilitator would add that?
So I would say, you know, what I say to the listeners are, your job is to reflect back what you understand the person's trying to get across, you know, or the essence of what they're saying. So how much detail they provide of the thing is, you know, that's going to vary. I'm mostly monitoring the satisfaction of the speaker. And if the speaker seems satisfied with the reflection, then fine. You know, they're really the judge of whether it's okay or not. If they seem like they're being nice, like if my assessment is the reflector missed a big chunk of what was important to them and they're just being nice, then I might intervene.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
I also want the speaker and the reflector to have a chance to work out their differences. So I'm not intervening every time. I'm waiting to see what happens. And usually I'll let a listener miss like twice or a third time. And then if they really miss 2 or 3 times, the speaker is going to start to they're either going to get annoyed or they're going to say, well, I feel heard. Let's move, you know, like, let's move on. They'll say they feel heard even if they're not, because it's so painful. They want to move on.
Thank you.
MJ?
Can I ask, has it ever happened where somebody doesn't say they feel heard? Is that something?
Sure. Yeah, I've been in circles where people say, yeah, no, I don't, you're not getting me, or you're not. I mean, mostly, so I have been a few circles like that. Mostly what happens is the other thing, which is someone will say they feel heard when they really don't, because they don't want to embarrass the person. They don't want to create conflict, but it's so painful to not be heard that they don't want to continue. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to talk about the process, and then we can do, because Edwin can't be here today, we have 2 rooms for this. There'll be a room of 6 and 7. They're a little bit larger than we normally would do that, but just want to make sure that, and so do we want to go for 3-minute turns, speaking turns, or 4-minute, Lou? What do you think? We have about an hour.
I think I'm not sure.
All right, because we have it is a little bit shorter. So we have, let's say, 6 people. In your room, that would be 5. My room, that would be 6. So you have so it's about 10 minutes to facilitate per person. And then within that 10 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. So at least we can get 3 people.
Okay.
Does
That sounds good.
Okay. All right. Anything else we want to say before we go into those rooms?
Actually, I guess I'm wondering if we want to, since we have bigger groups, if we want to try to extend the time a little bit. Is that something you could do, Bill? It's something I could do.
Yes, I can. Well, we have till 12:30, so we could do that. You want to go to? Let's see, what would that do? So like another 10 minutes. We could come back at 12:10, 12:20, and then maybe extend a little bit beyond that if people have-
Can people extend the time a little bit today because we have larger groups? Is that something people could do? Could you show a hand?
Natalia, yeah.
It
It's
would
really-
be a stretch for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to. Gotta
Okay.
work after this too.
All right. So let's just do a shorter debrief, a little bit shorter debrief then maybe.
Okay, so we'll come back at about 12:10 then.
Okay,
3 minutes?
that's good. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Let's
See
get
you
started.
in the circles. Think about it with the level of difficulty.
Yeah.
And see you there. Here we go. All right. All right, we're all here.
Hi.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'll just kind of really quickly recapitulate the. So people have a chance here to go for about 10 minutes. I will not go, so we should be able to get everybody in to facilitate. When you facilitate, you will be keeping the individual timekeepers, the individual speakers' times. So you'll keep that 3 minutes. It'll be 3 minutes, so hopefully you have something there. And I will keep the time, the 10 minutes. Yeah, so you can pick a topic or have no topic. And what else? There's one more other thing I wanted to say. And your level of difficulty. Okay, so who would like to? Yes, Katrina.
I'm happy to go last, just in case we run out of time, because I did a session yesterday.
Okay.
So,
all right, and I see that, yeah, and Anisha's done it before too, so, and I've done it. So we'll kind of go around with people who haven't had a chance yet, and then, or at least had one. Okay.
Good.
Okay, is that okay with you, Anish? That's okay with you too? Okay. Okay, thanks. All right, who would like to start with the facilitation? So you want to start, set a topic, and then...
I can start.
All right.
So just let everyone know we'll have 3 minutes per speaker, and I'll just kind of hold up my phone once the time is done. And so the topic today will be needs. Just what is a need?
Okay. And how much? Zero disruption, or what would you?
We can do 5.
5. All right. All right.
That's kind of what we did yesterday. Yeah. All right. Who would like to speak first? And the speaker can pick your listener as well.
I'll go first.
Okay, Katrina, you'll go first. Then who would you like to listen to?
The topic is need. Did I get that right?
You did, yes.
Okay. MJ, would you listen to me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, what do I want to say about needs? That's a difficult one for me. And I don't know why. I'm not sure why that's a difficult one for me, but nothing is coming to my mind. I'll pause there.
Yeah, so I hear it's a difficult topic to come up with, by the way. You're not quite sure why.
No. So I think for me, it's kind of like, maybe it's because I'm quite a practical person and I don't really struggle with making sure that things get done that I need to do. I get my food, I cook it, I keep myself cool or warm, I go for a walk, I read a book, I talk to my friends. So I guess I can't really sort of think off the top of my head of anything that I did. One thing I would like, and that is to be able to go back to before lockdown. There's a big need. So I'll pause there.
Yeah. So I heard you talk about you take care of some of your needs through maybe cooking some nice food, or talking to some friends, or keeping on top of yourself. And one thing you'd mention is you'd like to go back to the time before lockdown.
Yeah, that is my biggest need at the moment, is to go back. If somebody had a magic wand and they could wave it and just everyone be back to normal, how everything was. I don't have to go out and look at people wearing masks and go into a shop and see people with like these space type suits on. I had an email from my masseur saying he was to start doing massage again, but I had to wear a mask. I had to take my own towel thing, and I'm like, do you know what? I don't really want to do that. That doesn't appeal to me at all. So I'm conscious that the things that I used to do, I'm actually not able to do them anymore, and that it's not. It really sort of it pisses me off a bit.
So your biggest need is right now, if you had a magic wand, you could go back to the time before lockdown. It's kind of made your life a bit more difficult, and you can't do the things you like as you had before, such as your massage therapist. You have to bring your own towel and stuff. It's kind of aggravating and kind of annoys you.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Thanks, Katrina. Jenny, would you like to listen?
Hi guys, just one quick thing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but if it's not your turn to speak, please don't use the chat. We're just going to let each person speak. Anisha, I noticed you're using it, and that's okay, but just for the purpose of this, it's MJ's turn to speak for the next 3 minutes. Is that all right? Okay, great. Go ahead, MJ. Who would you like to speak with?
I'd like to speak with Jenny.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, I also find this a bit of a difficult topic, but I will try my best. I think it's important to be able to identify needs. I'll pause there.
So you also think this is a bit of a difficult subject. You're not quite sure about it, but you're going to do your best. And you think it's very important to identify needs.
Yeah. It's important to think of the basic ones, first of all. I think we're quite privileged in that we have a lot of our basic needs filled, such as food, water, shelter, safety, security, and not many people have those needs fulfilled around the world.
Yeah. So, basic needs are the most important ones, and we have those basic needs met for the most part. We've got shelter, food, water, safety, and that's not necessarily the case for a lot of people around the world. We're quite privileged.
We can see with the climate crisis as well, it's coming to light that that's changing going forward. So I think paying attention to these needs around the world and putting our attention at them will be important.
So with the climate crisis, this is becoming more and more apparent that people's needs aren't necessarily being met, and that going forward, we need to pay attention to everybody's needs all around.
Especially us who have a lot of our basic needs fulfilled. We should be able to share our privilege.
So especially those of us who already have our basic needs fulfilled and more, we need to learn to share more so that other people can have their basic needs met.
Yeah. And I also think this empathy circle process is quite good at fulfilling these needs, because one basic need is just social interaction and being able to share your feelings. So it's nice to be taking part in it right now.
Okay, you feel that the empathy circle is quite, is really quite a good way to meet a basic need for socializing and having that need to be heard met. So you're really pleased to be taking part in this right now.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Hey. Natalia, would you listen to me, please?
Sure, gladly.
Yeah, needs. It's really important, isn't it, to remember basic needs. What is really an important need? Is a really good question. Pause.
So you're asking you're asking yourself and probably me what is really important need, and I'm very drawn to answer that. So I believe the air is very important need. How do you think?
Natalia, for this section, we're just going to try and repeat back what you hear Jenny say as quickly as possible, or not quickly, but as close as possible without answering. But I appreciate your wanting to help out.
Okay, I heard the question and yeah, I jumped. Sure, cool. Sorry, Jenny, continue.
Okay. That doesn't, yeah, putting it as a question doesn't help very much, probably. Yeah, I think it's really time for us more privileged people to examine what our needs are, and this whole lockdown thing has made me kind of rejig what I think my needs are.
So you think that for more privileged people to whom you kind of relate, you think it's important to find what the needs are, and it was what prompted this thought was lockdown time.
Yeah, it's made me change my needs somewhat. Or find what I don't need. I don't need to travel in my car as often as I thought I did. I can stay at home and actually be happier.
So lockdown time allowed you to realize what the needs that you don't need, and it's a realization for you that you didn't need to travel in your cars as much as you did before.
Yeah, and I would love it if everybody could, everybody who's got a car could reduce their need for using it. I would love that.
So you would love it if everybody who has a car would reduce their need for using it.
Yes. Thank you. I feel heard, Natalie.
Hi everyone, so Natalia, thanks. Just before we get started, I know sometimes maybe it can be hard to concentrate, and if you're not able to be present, that's all right. If you want to take a step away, you could turn your camera off for a second. If you're not able to be fully present, just let us know, and we're happy to accommodate that. Natalia, would you like to go and ask if somebody would be present with you?
Okay, hold on. I just want to. So that's the 10 minutes.
Yeah, I figured.
Right. So it's just unfortunately it's a little short, but these are things you can practice. But Josh, what any feedback that you would want? I mean, like, you know, yeah. So what questions would you have, or things that you want to know?
Well, one thing that was interesting, I saw MJ like doing some stretches, and I know we like encourage that, and in the past we've done it with the camera off,
Right.
but you know, it's just so interesting thinking about in person. Like if you're in person in a circle and someone's just like doing qigong while you're talking, like you might ask them to go to a different area if they can't be present for the circle. Yeah, so, and I don't know, I'm not sure what kind of feedback. What do you all get? Or how was it when I responded to Natalia? Or how would you respond to her differently? I don't know if I empathize first with her.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say is that what I like is, and I'll say this several times, is that you may not know the answers, but are you asking the right questions? And I think you were. First of all, your tone was very welcoming, and you know, and very, you know, just, hey, it's no big deal, you know, and so I really like that. Yeah, so I thought that that's good. And it was interesting because I tried to, I was banging on my thing, and people just ignored me. So you basically outweighted me.
We couldn't even hear you, yeah.
Right, it didn't come out that much, and I was just debating and stuff. And then MJ learned that from me, this kind of stuff. So it's nice to know, because that's my go-to disruption. Yeah, right. And it was interesting though, and it's also a judgment, because like when I did it, it was a little bit like I'm in your face here like that. When MJ did it, and that's fine, but it was a little bit further back. It wasn't as distracting. So just to let you know, as a facilitator, you do have discretion. And then if you're co-host, you can actually turn their camera off. If you need to.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other feedback? That was pretty good. So yeah, really nice, Josh, for me. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, Josh? Oh, Anish, over there. Go ahead.
I can't hear you.
You're muted, Anish.
Just want to say, Josh, I really like the care that you showed. You were calm and composed. I personally felt you could have gone with level 7, 8, and 9. You would have still killed it.
Yeah.
This is what my understanding is. And I have a question to you, Bill. I heard Joshua give feedback in a very sweet, non-specific manner. And this is where I'm wondering, like when he talked about not being distracting, he never mentioned MJ. And it was a feedback to the whole group. So how does it really work? Do you let people know that you become specific and say, okay, you know what, MJ, I know that you have a need for movement and sometimes it can be hard. So how about you take a break and stretch, and with the videos off, and it's a feedback to everyone. So it becomes more specific. Otherwise it looks like it was a very generic way. And just want to know your input, or maybe Joshua's input on it.
Sure, Josh, do you want to respond to that? What decision making you?
Well, I saw that you also put Mr. Facilitator, I can't concentrate, so I thought that it might have been a general thought, and I really liked the 3 minutes, because if you did that and I knew time wasn't up for another 2 minutes, like I might have interrupted and said like, hey, Anish, like I saw your comment here and I just want to say, if you're not able to be present, like there's the option to leave the circle for a bit. But since both of y'all seemed to have something at the same time, it just seemed better to just address that.
Yeah, and I will say again, a lot of this is and that's what is sort of a judgment call. You know, in one case you might be able to ignore it and just, you know, have it go on, and making a general comment doesn't put a person on the spot, so that's the benefit there. They don't feel singled out that they're doing something wrong. It's just, you know, anything. And then if it continues, then you may have to address it like, you know, personally, because then you're balancing like, you know, Jenny is not, you know, getting up and dancing around. And so then why, although she's quite capable, I know. But, you know, in other words, so then other people might say, wait a minute, I'm not doing that. And then they're getting ticked off. So it's a balancing act, is what I'm saying. I like the general, I would go general at first and then see what that happens. And then if it continues, then maybe focus it a little bit more. Maybe try to deal with it in the chat if you can individually before you know, that would just be some suggestions.
Yeah, last thing too, in my empathy circles that I want to do, I do plan on adding some movement in like every few minutes just to
Yes.
So that could be a nice way, like, hey, if you want to keep it to this, we are going to move because it sucks to sit through all day. So
Yes, and by the way, just to let you know, I took a workshop called Touch for Health years ago, and it was a 2-day workshop. And what they said for adults, every 40 minutes, if you get up and then take like about a movement break or something like that, it really, makes you much more able to, and it was true. It was amazing. So just to let you know, you don't always have that in the circle, but just a couple. Okay.
all right, somebody else.
Next person to facilitate and pick a topic. Natalia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
you'll be the facilitator, and what's the topic?
I will be facilitating on the topic of waste.
Waste. Okay.
Waste. Yeah.
All right.
How much do we waste? Zero waste? Anything? Any emotions you have towards waste?
Okay.
And I'm curious who is prompt to speak first.
I'd like to speak first.
Okay. Sure. Janine, whom would you like to speak to?
I would like to speak to Anish.
Wait, what number did she say? Did she say a number?
Number?
Difficulty
How
level.
disruptive?
Natalia.
Oh, right. We didn't say how much. What's your level of disruption? That's right. Thank you, Joshua. That was my mistake.
I don't mind mild distraction, and I would like also to let you know that I'm on the phone, so I don't see everyone. So if you're
Okay.
moving to distract me, I would not see that.
Okay.
Sorry. In
Gotcha.
advance.
Okay. Got it. Good to
And
know.
I'll be having this sign saying time, and I'll be keeping time to 3 minutes. And Jenny, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. Anish, will you listen to me?
Up to.
Okay. Waste. As humans, we're so good at creating waste. And I like to use as much, to waste as little as possible. Things that people would waste, I like to turn into useful things. Pause.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you're amazed at how much humans can waste, and from there you're able to share your truth that what other people think is waste, you'd like to use them and you'd like to utilize them.
Yeah, I kind of I use quite a lot of waste in my art. I get waste and I bind it together and make bundles, and yeah, I like turning waste into art. That's one thing that I do with it.
Yeah, and I sense a lot of joy within you when you say that you love to turn waste into art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my girlfriend,
Yeah.
she wants to, she's actually right here if you want to talk with her about that.
Sorry, Joshua?
What?
I hear that, sorry to interrupt, Joshua, I hear that you would like to also be heard in this topic. And can I suggest that you hold on for this sec for a few more minutes, and then the turn will come to you and you'll be able to express. Okay, cool. Thank you. Janie, please continue.
Hi. The other thing that I really, I think organic waste is just fantastic. You know, my turning things into compost, giving it back to the earth is something that I find very beautiful.
Yeah, and what you find very beautiful and actually is how you can turn organic matter or waste into compost, which can go back to soil as nutrients.
Yeah, and you know, that serves Mother Earth as a whole, and I think it would be wonderful if we, in the way we approach the way we live on the planet, if all waste was organic, if we stopped having waste that was polluting and poisonous and destructive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're really thinking if we can all, I mean, if we can stop putting our waste into the seas and the landfills and all those places, and we can turn back all this waste as organic waste into Mother Earth as compost and nutrients.
Yeah, and if we could stop having stuff that's poisonous, stop making waste that is poisonous, make sure that waste is organic.
Yeah, and I think we should stop making poisonous stuff like chemicals and fertilizers, which are quite harmful, and we should rely more on compost, organic waste.
Okay, thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, great. Okay, I think Joshua wanted to speak. So, Joshua, can I speak to you?
Yeah, listen.
Okay, great. Yeah, the topic of waste is very fascinating for me because my partner and I, we look at waste differently. My partner is big time into composting, so I don't think we have thrown out any organic waste outside. It all goes to a compost in a very small box in a very limited space that we have. I'm going to pause.
Yeah, so waste is also interesting to you, and you and your partner have different views on waste, and your partner is really interested in composting, and so as a result, you haven't really thrown anything out. You just put it into this little container.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I used to compost many, many years ago, and then I just realized that it requires so much of discipline and so much of care and attention. Like it's an additional work apart from your cooking, like chopping down everything into smaller bits and pieces, then putting with the soil, mixing it and aerating it and all that. That process was quite cumbersome. So I think I ran out of patience.
You don't have to do it like that. It doesn't have to be chopping everything up like that.
Of course you have to.
No, you can
if you don't do it, it starts smelling. It
Jenny
starts
and
smelling.
Anish, may I request you to just pause for a second? And Jenny,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have very strong emotions towards it, and it's okay. And can I request you to hold them for a little bit, and I'm sure the circle will come back to you and you will be able to express
I'm
them.
so sorry. I do apologize.
Thank you so much.
So I'll try and summarize what I heard was that, you know, in the past you've composted, but you stopped doing that because it was a lot of work and it's hard to chop everything up and to, you know, be really intentional. It's kind of like another art after cooking that it's just a lot of work.
Yeah. And no matter what Jenny thinks, I know that this is my experience. And yeah, I didn't really like Jenny interrupting my sharing like now. She had all the time.
Yeah, so you don't really enjoy that Jenny was sharing and you wanted this ability to take this time for yourself.
Yeah, at this moment, I want to just pass my turn. I think I'm heard.
So at this moment you feel heard and you like to pass your turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Katrina, would you like to listen to me?
Josh, can I take a second here?
Yeah.
I just want to check with Anish if he is okay, because I heard that there is some distress. And,
actually, I'm not. I didn't like when Jenny started speaking in between, but I just want to be nice, and I'm okay. It's fine.
Okay, so I hear that it was destructive for you when Jenny started speaking, and you don't feel like sharing anymore. And I wonder if what would support you at that moment right now?
Well, maybe you can put Jenny out of the room.
I hear you are finding solution of putting Jenny out, and I'm also holding this value of inclusion and the value of mutuality and patience, I guess. Would it be okay if Jenny stays and we continue the circle? And maybe you can speak for another minute to express how you feel right now, and maybe Josh or I can listen to you.
No, I think, thank you so much. I really appreciate the care. I feel much better. I'm very happy to pass and I'll wait for my turn to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. Yeah, Joshua,
Katrina,
thank
would you like to
for your
listen?
patience.
Yeah, no worries. Katrina, would you like to listen?
Yeah.
So,
I'm ready.
yeah, last night we watched a documentary on waste, and it was interesting. This guy found a way to turn waste into energy for housing and to create this biochar. And it just interested me in this whole idea of, you know, using our landfills for actual energy.
So this topic is quite interesting to you because last night you were watching a documentary about waste, and in this documentary they showed you how they can use waste to create biochar and use it to actually create energy for houses, and this means it doesn't go into landfill. And it sounds like this was quite exciting for you to hear this.
Absolutely. And yeah, and I'm just kind of frustrated with my own situation of not really having like I live in an apartment, I don't have space for my own compost. And so because I eat so many plants and melons and watermelons, there's really like we can buy this compost box that's this big, which isn't even big enough to store a single watermelon, basically.
So yeah, so you're feeling a bit frustrated actually because you live in an apartment and you really like this idea of composting everything that you process in your kitchen, but you only get a very small container for the compost, and if you get something really big like watermelon, just doesn't even fit. But you know what I would do? I would take it down to the municipal place.
Katrina, can I stop you for a second? After Joshua,
Yeah.
there will be your turn to express, so we can you can express whatever you want. And right now, would it be okay for you to return to this Miro state, like just returning back what you hear from Josh?
Sure. Sorry.
Thank you so
You
much.
got it. I know my time's up. I think.
Sure, Josh. If you said everything.
I think it's another half minute.
Oh,
yeah?
half minute.
So
okay. Yeah. So yeah, our municipal place doesn't compost. I called their phone number and it said it's out of order. So I think I'll have to take it to a garden, but it's just frustrating that I can't do this on my own right here where I live. That's it.
So you've explored other ways of getting composting this large waste, but there's no way you can do it. So you're thinking maybe now you're going to go to a garden. So there's a sort of sense of frustration that you cannot do something that's quite simple, but you may be coming up with solutions.
Absolutely, yes, and I feel heard.
Yay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and that was confusing because that was about the 10 minutes. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's what you heard, and that's it. So Natalia, any feedback that you would like, or what would you like to focus on? Questions or anything?
I'm very happy to receive feedback about yeah, there were quite a few interruptions.
Sure.
So how was it for Anish, Jenny, and Katrina?
Yeah, it was yeah, fine. Yeah, good. You handled it well for me. And I think you handled it well with everyone. I really like the way you talk with Anish. Yeah.
Jenny, Anish?
Yeah, it was good. You handled my outburst rather well, I thought.
Thank you.
I appreciate watching you do this too, because I don't know if I would have handled it as well with Anish. But you actually like gave him time and like listened and asked if he could stay in the circle and be a part of it. So that's something I'll adopt too. I like that.
Yeah. I wasn't honestly kind of expecting you to ask me any question. I thought I was just going to be silently, and I was amazed that you picked up on my unhappiness and then you went on with it. It's only in the minute you gave me the power of asking question, what would I like to be done, is when I said, okay, if you give me that power, I'm just going to use it and say, okay, I want Jenny out of the room. So I don't know, I have mixed emotions about it. Also, I love the way you took care of it. I really felt cared for. I felt that I was there. I was important for you, at least in the circle, and yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Thank you.
For me, that was it. I felt a bit bad and wrong because, you know, Anish got so much attention for for my interrupting him that I felt a bit, I kind of shrank a bit, and I wondered whether I should leave or stop my video, or, you know, from you giving him attention and then him saying that he wanted me to leave. That was a bit uncomfortable for me. It was all right because, you know, I'd made it up anyway, but I don't know what it would be like in a very real situation. I don't know.
Yeah. Since Bill said that Bill took the name of each person to share what it was, so I just shared my truth. However, I also was feeling a bit torn for Jenny because I took her name with Joshua first, and then I said I want her out of the circle, and then probably I could have just checked with Jenny as well how she was. But I don't know in the process where it fits Bill, so I'm very confused about it, so I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay, sure. No. So first of all, overall, Natalia, I'd like to reinforce what everybody said. You had a nice, warm, you know, accepting, everybody felt to care for, and that's the basics. Once you have that, you're going to make mistakes or things like that, or you won't make mistakes, or, you know, things like that will happen, but they're correctable. You know, some strong. The only thing that I would say is that I liked what you know, again, in that vein of taking care of people, everything you did was fine. When you give someone an open-ended question like that, then you are sort of inviting them to kind of derail the process a bit. And so that's what we call in the United States, I guess we're overly capitalistic, we call it a cost-benefit analysis. And so the question is that, in other words, how much, like, yes, we go into that and Anish feels cared for, and that's good, but then we're also kind of off the process, you know, and so the flow is interrupted a bit. And so that's just something you work out. I don't say that there was a wrong or right, but that's something that you want to do. So generally what I've found is that I'll kind of like skate over a little bit more, try to keep the rhythm going a little bit, maybe shoot something to Anish in the chat. Hey, you felt a little something like that, and try to handle it with trying to keep it. But, you know, maybe not. You know, I mean, again, there's not a right or wrong, but that's what you're balancing, taking care of an individual, giving them that care with the whole group dynamics. That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bill, and thank you, Anish. I really enjoyed, and yeah, I did not realize at the moment that I'm giving so much power to Anish. I obviously did not expect him.
You should know that's a mistake. You know this man.
Your partners, so I mean, of course.
Yeah, right.
Just want to acknowledge one thing that came back very strongly, Bill, when you were saying what I really loved what you did, Nat, was invoking the values of inclusion and mutuality. I didn't have anything to come back after that. The minute you said one of the values, the core values of the circle is inclusion and mutuality, I was like, oh, okay, you got me there. So back to you. And then I was able to settle down. So just remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, really excellent. And that's, we haven't really developed those, but that is your fallback. When the structure breaks down, as it might, then you kind of like, you know, lose giving you saying, well, if they're not going to reflect, then we do mutuality. We make sure that we do something like that. So you can always, you know, bring it back to those things and do the best that you can. Excellent job. Okay. Thank you, Natalia. All right.
Thank you.
Let's see. We have, let's see, Katrina's been in the last session. So we have Jenny and MJ. Jenny, you want to?
Okay.
All right. All right. So you got 10 minutes, and then pick a subject, pick a level of difficulty, and.
Okay. My subject is trees. And my difficulty is 5.
5. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So introduce it.
So who
Go to,
would like to go first? Anish.
Okay, thank you. MJ, would you listen to me, please?
Yes, I would love to.
Yeah, the minute I heard trees, my heart just went, and it just was almost, it was about to explode because I love trees. I mean, I can't identify trees as per species and all, but I just love trees. So fascinated to talk about it. I'll pause.
Yeah. So when you heard the topic was trees, you kind of felt like a little explosion inside. You get so excited about trees.
Yeah.
You don't see it as a species yet, if I heard that right, but you just really love trees.
Yeah. No, so what I was saying that I am not an expert in identifying different species. Like if you ask me which tree is this, what is its botanical name, well, I may not be able to give you a lot of information about trees or the variety of it, but I just love trees and I look at them in my own ways. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't know the different species of trees. You wouldn't be too versed on different types, but you just love looking at trees and exploring it in your own way.
Yeah. Wow. I think my fondest memory about getting interested in trees is a walk that I took through a forest in 2004.
Oh, so the most fond memory you have of trees is a walk you did when you were 4 to a forest.
No, back in 2004.
Back in 2004.
Yeah, yeah. And it was monsoons pretty much the same time. And I have seen trees before that. I'd seen them all my life, but I've never seen them as an entity. So when I was walking through the forest with a group of people who were walking and hiking, the person who was leading the group kind of said, okay, find a tree which kind of resembles your personality. Okay, there's something in the chat. Of course. I mean, yeah, now she's frozen. This is what she does all the time. I forgot what I was saying.
So I can reflect. I heard it was monsoon season the time you went, and you had seen trees before, but you hadn't experienced them as an entity.
Yeah, yeah. So, and the leader of the group kind of said, find a tree which kind of resembles your personality and go speak to the tree and maybe give it a hug if you feel like.
So the leader of the group you were with asked you to find your own tree and associate your an emotion with it, and if you feel like it, give it a hug.
Yeah, tree hugger. Wow, I'm just getting so distracted with all the messages that is coming now. Joshua, you are a dude. I'm not a communist. I'm not. Just letting you know. Wow. I don't think I'm heard here anymore. I don't want to speak.
I hear you're being very distracted.
Yeah.
I don't feel very heard anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't feel heard at this moment, and I think I'm complete.
Okay, Anish, I'm sorry you don't feel heard. Could everybody please not use the message box when somebody's speaking? Because it is quite distracting, and Anish is upset again. So if it would be
happens
great
to me.
if you could not use the message box. And
yeah. Thank you, Jenny. But I'm
Okay.
seeing that this pattern is coming in more and more of these circles. So at this moment, I'm happy to shut up. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, MJ, would you like to take your turn?
Sure. Natalia, would you like to listen?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Similar to Anish, I also really enjoyed this topic, trees. Yeah, I think they're amazing, and I'm glad Jenny chose it. I'll pause.
So you like the topic as well as a niche, and you like the trees as well as a niche.
Yeah. I find it fascinating every time you look up. It's quite a unique pattern with all of the leaves. Really enjoy looking at it that way, and hugging them feels nice.
So I heard that you enjoy uniqueness of the trees, and you like looking up on them, and then I lost it.
Hugging them feels nice as well.
You like to hug trees as well.
Yeah. I've heard of people being able to relate to them in a way, and that's something I don't understand. Yeah. I think there's a nice picture there from Katrina of a tree. Yeah, no, I know people can empathize with animals, and I think I empathize with animals quite well. Empathizing with trees is like a step too far for me for now.
So you think that empathizing with trees is weird because they're not animals, and yeah, it's like, what's wrong with the people who empathize with trees? How can you empathize with a tree?
I don't know if that's entirely what I was saying. I think it is a great skill to be able to empathize with trees, but it's something I don't quite know yet.
So now you're saying that I'm wrong, saying that it's weird because you think it's a great skill, and now I feel bad about it. Thank you. You can continue, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the lifespan of
Let's
trees.
call a timeout. Let's call a timeout. Okay. So we're going to stop here for a sec. So I think Jenny's getting a little bit more.
I'm completely confused, to be honest.
I know. So
there's an Edwin 5 and then there's a Bill 5, I think, because yeah, the Edwin 5 yesterday was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I actually, you guys have been like doing it for me, and MJ took my go-to move, so I got nothing. So what's happening here? It's unlikely that you would get so many things. In this particular case, though, I think you kind of like you waited a little too long to intervene. And so the first thing is that Anish didn't feel heard, and it was being called a communist. So it's interesting because I'm really thinking about myself. Really, I'm learning at the same time as you all are. What would I do in this particular situation? So in that particular situation, when there's kind of like communists and tree huggers, and there seems to be like a focused attack, then I would tend to intervene earlier. And I will just say that I am a trainer of nonviolent crisis intervention. And so there was a way to assess the level of focus that you got. And one of the things is when somebody's kind of like saying, oh, and they're cursing or something like that, it's kind of like a sprinkler. It's diverse. And you can kind of ignore that a bit sometimes. If it's too distracting in this circle, of course you don't, but it can. But when somebody then focuses in on you're this, think of it as the difference of getting hit with a fire hose. So people really feel that. So in that particular case, when it's like, broad to then focused, then I would intervene a little bit sooner.
Okay.
And your intervention was great. And but would that happen? And see, because basically we're all reprobates at heart, everybody started to, pile on. And then you were dealing with a lot of things at the same time, really difficult.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that was just too much.
Yeah.
First of all, I cannot stand using the chat. I don't want the chat to be kind of available at all when I'm a facilitator. I would rather it wasn't there at all. And from this, I would say I never want to facilitate more than 4 people.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that you would have that many problems. Most of the time it goes very, smoothly. And so
Okay, just with this lot.
Yeah, just with us. Yes, no, you can't trust us to go to the store.
I can't. When the chat, there's things going on in the chat. It's just too much for me to handle at once. I can't do that kind of multitasking. I don't know why. I'm not interested in learning to either.
Right. Well, you can, if it's your Zoom room, you can disable the chat.
Yeah, good idea.
You can disable the chat. And then the other thing is that, you can just, again, like at the beginning of your facilitation, please don't comment in the chat or something like that. Or, you can ask that. Okay. So I want to be aware of time. I want MJ and then Katrina, but Jenny, we kind of like stopped you a little short. Did you want to, what else did you want to like do one more round or
no, it's fine. I've had enough. I've had enough.
You've had enough. Okay. You've had enough from us all. All right. Okay. Yeah, Anish.
I just want to acknowledge that no way I think this was 5. This was way more than 5. In fact, I got thrown off by Natalia's message because I really thought she was sending me a message in private and it went, I was really confused. So
yeah,
I think this is way too much. So I just want to acknowledge that usually it's not this challenging and just want to give assurance and yeah.
Yeah, and I would agree. You did fine, Jenny. It was definitely more than than we would do. Do you have any questions, or Jenny, or other concerns?
No, not really. It just made me feel quite clear about what my boundaries are.
Good. Well, that's good. That's very good. Yeah. And then just be honest and transparent about them.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like we're going to have good enough times here. So MJ, and go ahead, pick a topic, level of difficulty, and.
I think I'll go with the level 3 difficulty.
Okay. Fool me once. Okay. And what's your topic? And then
my topic is technology.
Technology. Okay. So take it away.
So we'll start going up in rounds now. I'll be the facilitator and I will hold up a time stamp. It's a suggestion to end your point. You can, once you see it, you don't have to stop immediately, just gently bring it to a close. If I interrupt you, please note that it's not a criticism of you or your opinions or thoughts. It's just trying to keep us on track on the structure. So if anyone would like to begin, raise your hand. Natalia, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you, MJ. I noticed that I listened twice today and I didn't talk even once. So,
who would you like to choose as your listener?
Bill, would you like to listen to me?
Happily, yes.
Okay, thank you. So, technology, where do I start? I love technology. I really, really love technology. I love new features that are coming up on my laptop, on my telephone, on my watch. I really enjoy that there are so many useful apps that are coming up. I am super grateful to technology in lockdown that really keeps us connected throughout the world. Like it doesn't feel like I'm locked in my apartment for half a year now. almost half a year, 5 months, I really feel connected to international environment. Like right now, I think we're 4 or 5 countries in one Zoom room, and it feels so close. So yeah, I think technology is something amazing that is really, really supportive to me.
Okay, so you really love technology. It's really supported you through the epidemic when you were at home. You really appreciate that you can be in a room like this with having a conversation with people in 4 or 5 countries. And yeah, and I love technology as well. I mean, but I'm an older guy, and you know what they did not improve on?
Sorry,
I'm
Bill.
sorry. Yeah.
I might interrupt you there. So your role right now is just to reflect what you've heard, and then afterwards you will have a chance to speak.
Oh, okay. All right.
Looks like it.
Sorry, Natalia. Go ahead.
Yeah, and let me get on track. So I was saying how much I love technology, and I think it's not enough. I think we need better technology. I think we need technology to clean the water. I think we need technology to get rid of stop using fossil fuels and get like efficient electricity out. We need technology to freaking change, how's it called, repair my Wi-Fi connection that's dropping off for a week already because it's raining. It's not supposed to be this way. So I think there's a huge room for improvement.
So you love technology, and you think that we need to employ a lot more in cleanup and everything. And then personally, your Wi-Fi connection is dropping because it's raining, and that's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, and I'm actually quite inspired and waiting for these chips that are coming straight to the brain, where I don't know yet how it would work, but maybe if through these chips people can be monitored in terms of their location, maybe it will help to save lives by kids who are lost, or by somebody who are taken from their families, or maybe if we I don't know, maybe we can use it like storing information, like recipes for cakes. You just think about cake and you hop and have all the recipes in your mind.
So you really like the idea of like putting chips in our brain where we can then access and have a computer available to us just by thinking about it. Like you think about a recipe, it would then be there and come out.
Yeah, and maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe we can use it first for the people with memory loss, that would really support them in their daily practice. That
And Natalia,
yeah.
Just to let you know that 3 minutes has expired, so if you could finish up your point.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't see you because I'm on the phone.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think my last point is that mainly I'm thinking about this technology for people with memory loss.
So you're thinking that it'd be an excellent with people with dementia and Alzheimer's and memory loss, that this implant could really help them, really change their lives. I'm excited about that.
Thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, good. All right. All right. Anish, will you listen to me? Okay. You're muted, Anish.
Happy to.
Okay, good. Okay. So as I'm going to say is, like an older, one thing technology has not done, and I don't know why, but they have not improved the off button. The off button has gotten worse. When I was a boy, you turned something off and it went off. And now in the computer, I turn it off and then it's doing things, and there's, they're swirling things. And then sometimes it doesn't turn on. I come back a half an hour and it's not turned off. What's going on?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that people these days just stupid. They don't know how to make technology. Like back in the old days, technology used to be much smarter. You switch on, things switch off, things switch off. Nowadays, nobody has a clue what's happening.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're stupid. It's just like, I mean, I think we're stupid for accepting that. I mean, I don't get it. You know, you cut the power and then it's off. But no, there's you know, there's things, and you didn't shut. And then your computer yells at you. You didn't shut me down right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'll stop
Yeah,
there.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that technology is making us look stupid, like somebody's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. You figured they would get that right. Yeah, and I don't want a chip in my head. And my parents didn't have a chip in their heads. My grandparents didn't have a chip in their heads. And if it was good enough for them, it's good enough for me. No chips in my head.
Absolutely. And you don't want any technology chips in your head or your shoulder or anywhere. Like,
No.
nobody had it in your family, and you would not want it to have to anybody else.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bill. Katrina, can I speak to you, please?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I totally agree with Bill saying that technology is making us look stupid. I completely believe that we should go back to not using technology for many reasons, like it's good for us not to be surrounded by all these waves that we cannot see. It's good for environment. So I think we should just start a rebellion against technology.
Yes, so you agree with Bill, and you think that technology is too invasive in our lives, and there's all these sort of unseen things that about it that are affecting us. We need to basically make our lives more simple and stop using so much technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think after this call, I'm going to start a rebellion against it. Like, I'm very inspired with what Bill said. And I'm very scared of people like Natalia who would think about chips in the brain. Like, that's very scary for me. So
yeah. So you're seriously thinking about starting a rebellion, which I forgot to reflect back to you in the last one. And you get quite scared when you hear people like Natalia saying things about putting chips in people's brains, and you've got to do something about this.
Yeah, and I think people like me, Bill, Joshua, MJ, we should all get together who are against technology, and we should really do something about it.
So you'd like to get a little cabal of people in this group, maybe, who would want to do something about it and act on this?
Yeah. And yeah, I'm feeling very inspired right now. So I think I'm gonna do it.
And you're feeling really inspired by this idea, and so you're actually going to do it. You're going to go out there and do it.
Yeah, I fully heard. Thank you, Katrina.
You're welcome. So,
Okay, I'm gonna call
Josh,
time.
would you?
Yeah, sure. So MJ, it's about the 10 minutes. I want to give Katrina a chance before we go back. So MJ, any feedback that you would like? Any questions?
I wonder if I didn't interrupt with enough empathy, perhaps. Is that something people would? Was I too direct, or I don't know?
Okay.
I'd like some feedback.
All right, throw that open to the group, Josh.
I thought you did a great job, and yeah, I think you did. I don't want to like say the specific things you said because you said them, but yeah, I think it was fine for me. If all heard.
Yeah, you said it very softly, so there was no sort of harsh, punitive tone in your voice. You were just very calm and soft with it, so it didn't seem, unempathetic. It seemed very empathetic.
Okay. Thank you.
I would agree with that too. Yeah, I would think very, very inclusive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And MJ, what I really liked was, I mean, and this is my phrase for you, I really loved the way that even though things were a bit charged up, people were saying things, and I mean, Bill was charged, and I was charged, and I was trying to, it's very charged. You just kept your cool, and you just, because this was nothing more disruptive than what you asked for, and I guess just went with the flow as long as it was just going smoothly. So I really appreciate you not intervening, and that's a lesson for me I'm going to take back with, that just because I'm a facilitator, it's also important to know when not to intervene and be clear of that space, and that I really enjoyed.
All right, thank you. That's really nice.
All right, Katrina, you want to pick a subject, the level of difficulty, and start?
My level of difficulty is 0, as usual.
Okay, sure.
I never understand whether people are really being like that, or whether I just don't. I haven't got that kind of brain that can work out. So, right, everybody, I'm just getting my clock ready. So we're going to have start our circle now. I'm going to, as a facilitator, I'm going to be there to guide you through the process, and if I need to intervene, I will do so. But it's one of these things that we're going to just, as we go through the process, we're going to work out and find out more about how it actually works. So if we're going to start with the first speaker, who would like to speak? And the topic is going to be what it is to be a woman in today's world. Would anyone like to speak about that? Okay, Bill. And who would you like to listen to you?
You, Katrina.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, let me, hang on.
Sure.
Okay. So when my timer goes off, there'll be a little tinkling noise.
Okay, great. Well, in my job as or career as a special education teacher, I dealt with a lot of issues, and I saw a lot of societal issues. I saw the pervasive. We were talking about intersectionality, but we're talking about just how if you're member of my minority, the rules are different, and of course the same occurs for women. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, so you've got some experience of observing differences between different sectors of society from your job, and especially in the way that this impacts on women.
Yeah, and it comes from a deep history of my family. My great grandmother was the first woman to graduate from Tulane University in Louisiana, and she wanted to become a doctor, but because she was a woman, they made her become a pharmacist. I'll stop there.
So this even is part of your experience, your familial experience, because your great grandmother really wanted to be a doctor, and she did the training, but she wasn't, because she was a woman, she wasn't allowed to become a doctor, and she had to become a pharmacist.
Right. And then my grandmother was a published author who interviewed Golda Meir and also wrote a book about John Tyler. She ended up giving up her career to work in my grandfather's medical office. I'll stop there.
Yeah, so this is your grandmother as well, was an author. She interviewed really famous people and wrote books about people who are very well known, who I've never heard of actually. But she was forced to take a job, like a desk job, instead of doing this thing that obviously she was very good at.
Yeah, she worked in her husband's medical office. And then my mother, after my parents got divorced, she was also a speech therapist and also an actress, and then started over her own business, which went very successfully, but of course had to swim against the stream, as you would say.
So your mother trained as a speech therapist, and she was able to work in that role. And set up her own business, but it was very difficult for her, and you got the sense that she was swimming upstream.
Yes.
When she was working. So you're recognizing all these different facets of women's struggles through your own family.
And I'll just sum up by saying, their legacy lives in me. I may not be a woman, but their legacy lives in me. And when I saw, young women and said, it's time for women to get their due. And even though my ancestors, my mother and grandmother and stuff, they went through that, they didn't hold back from me. They gave me all the richness and intelligence and everything that I deserve. I use that today, and I hope I can give that back to women. And that's the end of what I have to say.
So thank you, Bill. And so it sounds like this has made you really passionate, all these things that you've observed in your own family, made you really passionate to make a change and to change the way that it is for women in the world today.
Yeah. Thank you, Katrina. I feel fully heard.
You're welcome. So I really struggle with this technology, I'm afraid. Joshua, would you listen to me?
Absolutely.
Okay, if I can just open my phone.
And Katrina, would you like to help you with the timer? I'm happy to do it for you.
Oh,
Katrina.
thank you, because my phone keeps switching itself off, and
sure, I can do that for you.
I have code in again, and I should have just get a timer. Thank you, that's really kind.
Okay, I can do that.
Joshua, I chose this subject because last night I did a circle, my first sort of solo flight, and there were 3 women in the group. I was one of them, and it was actually really, really profound for me because we talked about so many very deep personal issues. One of the women was there was a very young one with a baby. There was myself, I'm a grandmother, and then there was a woman who's got like older children, but she has got grandchildren as well. So okay, I'll pause there.
Yeah, good. So you picked this topic because you had a conversation last time where you were able to do this, for your first time to be a facilitator, and you had a great conversation with 3 women, which you were one of them, and there was a grandmother with children, and I'm not remembering the other woman as well, but there was 3 women there.
There were 3 of us: a young mother, and the young mother had baby was in the room. Or in the flat, and the baby needed feeding in the middle of this circle. So she got the baby, she's breastfeeding the baby in this circle. And of course, because we were 2 older women, she knew me, but she hadn't met the other person. We were all quite comfortable with that.
So so there was a mother with a baby in the flat, and the baby wanted to eat, and so she was able to breastfeed the child in front of everybody, but she hadn't met you, but she felt comfortable doing that.
Yeah, well, she had met me. She's a friend of mine, but she hadn't met the other woman.
She hasn't met the other woman, but she's met you.
Yeah, so it was a very sort of intense experience for me, and it really made me start thinking about what it is to be a woman. And then I went on YouTube, and I watched a YouTube video about a load of women in Kenya who've decided they want to live without men, and they've set up these villages where they live with no men, and it was just extraordinary what these
Yes.
women, because of
Can I interrupt you
genital
right there?
mutilation.
Yeah, I can't remember all that. So it was exciting for you to be with the women, and led you to wanting to look up more about the topic. And so you went on YouTube and you saw about like people in Kenya and women with like that wanted to set up their own community without men. Where you're talking about genital mutilation being involved.
Yeah, thank you. I feel funny. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, so we're pretty close to the end there. All right, and Katrina, any kind of feedback that you would like or any questions?
It is difficult for me with the technology. I need to work out a way of timing things without using my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it is difficult for me when I'm the speaker. And so, yeah, I'd much rather just have sat there and watched everyone else talk. And so it was useful for me.
Okay. Yeah, I really liked what you did, and Anish, chipping in, that's great, because I think that if you see me there and there's some problems or somebody else from this group, you enlist them. The other thing is you could get like a little, those hourglass, those sand hourglass egg timers. We do that. There's like 3 minutes and 5 minutes. Any other feedback? Yeah, Anish.
I think one of the beauty about this process is also asking help and support from people in the circle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just saying it out loud there, you know what, and it's my real story. I'm not good at multitasking, and Natalia has witnessed to it. So sometimes when I have to do many things, I just ask people who would joyfully like to monitor time without feeling the pressure of it. Sometimes people raise their hand and then it makes it much easier. And I just say, okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It allows me to do what I really enjoy doing, which is just holding space. So leaning into the group also is a great way of just creating that inclusiveness and equality. And maybe that's another way of doing it.
Sure, and relates to one of the core principles, collaboration, the culture of empathy. Josh.
I have, I appreciated the conversation and the topics, and I just wanted to say it was very tough for me to remember everything you said, and I really wanted to, but I was like, oh my gosh, like this is, so maybe if you paused earlier or every few sentences, because I don't think there was one time where I actually got everything.
Okay.
I thought I was pausing, but I know that I do get quite intense when I'm talking about a subject, and maybe I just need to choose something a little less kind of something that's just happened to me. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. So I'll leave you with one joke about women. It's one of my favorite jokes. It's a cartoon. And it's this woman is sitting in her kitchen with her man friend, and the man friend says, face it, Sylvia, you need women. Well, I mean, you need men. The world needs men. What would the world be without men? And she thinks a moment, and she goes, fat, happy women and no crime. That's one of my favorite. Nicole Hollander, Sylvia. All right. See you in the big room.
Okay.
Gallery view. There we go. There we go. Okay, I think we're all back. Okay, well, I hope you had as good a time as I did. People having a lot of fun. So let's just go back and we'll do some feedback. Think about, new questions that came up, challenges, solutions, anything that went on. And would anybody like to start? Or Luz, I'm sorry, Lou, is there anything you'd like to say to friends?
No, that sounds perfect, Bill.
Okay.
And we don't have a lot of time, so
Right.
yeah, let's go.
Right. So about a minute or two. Just your experience. Okay, let me, yeah, Joshua.
Go quick. Yeah, just knowing when to intervene and when to let it flow. That was a
Mhm.
cool theme.
Yeah, good. Okay, Katrina?
Yeah, it was good to experience it, and also good to observe other people practicing and to see the pitfalls, and they're very brave getting all those things, issues to deal with.
Great. MJ?
Yeah, very good practice, and I look forward to doing it in reality.
Okay. Anish?
Exactly what Joshua said. My take back or takeaway from this cohort is when to intervene, when not to intervene. Have the sense of it, tuning in.
Okay, great. Natalia?
I'm checking out with the sense of support and really valuable learnings from today. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Jenny?
Well, I've decided that whenever I am facilitating an empathy circle, the chat will be turned off. So that's good to know. I'm really, really clear about that. And the other thing was also getting a sense of, although you're the facilitator, I can still lean into the other people in the circle and have them kind of help if I need to, like doing the timer. I think it was Anish is really good. It's sort of, he just kind of reached out to Katrina and said, well, I can do the timing for you. And it just made me realize that whoever's in the circle with you is more than happy to help you with that role. Well, some people are.
Some people, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And Charlotte?
Just feeling more comfortable in the diversity of what's here. Appreciation and more comfort.
Great. Thank you, Charlotte. Zach?
Yeah, my main takeaway today is to do a bit more work on the intro for the cafe, and that basically I need to make the presentation a little more succinct, and take some nice, solid pauses throughout.
Okay. All right. Karen?
Yes, that was really interesting to see how people manage to deal with difficulties. Yes, that was really inspiring for me. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Anne, and I'm sorry I had to mute you. There was some other things, so you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to have the opportunity to have some difficult situations brought into it and deal with them, to practice. And as always, there's so much to learn from one another. It's just seems to be a rich ground of people's experience to share. So I thank you all.
Thank you, Anne. Sarah?
I'm thinking I benefit from some elevator speeches. The intro, I like things to go naturally, not be so scripted. Yeah, it was really entertaining to have the challenges, which questioned the circle. I really appreciated Lou's acting. It was pretty brilliant, and everyone in the circle.
Thank you, Sarah. Lou?
Well, I had a lot of fun acting out, and I was very touched and excited to see people figuring out how to respond to those kinds of situations, and they did it with a lot of grace and a lot of compassion. I'm happy. I'm feeling happy that people are taking away, that I'm hearing people taking away benefit from what we've offered. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I also had a lot of fun, and I also want to echo that what Lou said about the grace and compassion that people, and again, it comes to, you know, there are technical things. You may not know everything, but are you asking the right question? And the question boils down to, for me, are people being heard? You know, are people being heard in this? We want to remind you that you can take this again. We're trying to train the trainers. It's not a fully, you know, baked training. There are going to be some other trainings and other things like that at 10 a.m. on Friday Pacific time. Then we do have a weekly empathy circle. That's a good time that you can kind of come there, and then you'll be asked to facilitate. Edwin has been, you know, asking, you know, people in this training to facilitate a breakout room or something like that. So you can come there. And then after that, if you have any projects at 12:30 Pacific time on Friday at Edwin's Zoom room, this Zoom room, he has a facilitator support group where it's not a circle, but where people have 15 minutes to talk about their projects and get any sort of facilitation support that they need for that, you know, and ask for that.
And I just want to add, one of the things you can do in that group, the facilitator support group, is get help with situations. So in the same kind of, you know, role playing or role playing situations that you're either worried about or afraid of, or things that actually came up that you had difficulty with. That's also an opportunity to test drive those situations or learn from others about how to respond to those kinds of situations.
Okay. All right. Well, we're 4 minutes early in here. I just want to express, I really enjoy doing this. And so I want to express my appreciation for you guys coming in here. Personally, I think we face tremendous challenges. I think that we have to start with some sort of listening like this. And I just want to express my personal appreciation to each and every one of you that you're willing to do that. It's a tough row to hoe, as we say here, but I feel so much better seeing so many talented and dedicated people doing that. So thank you. That's what I like to. And Lou, any last words?
Ditto, all the same things that you're saying, and just want to say that I've really enjoyed meeting all of you, and I'm grateful to all of you, as Bill said, for the work that you are planning to do, and that I care about all of you. And I really wish you well on the work that you're going to do, and I hope that you will come to the facilitator support group on Friday and let us know how you're doing, and share what you're learning. It'd be great to see you there and to continue to learn together there about how to do this practice and how to make a difference.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. All right. And then just, sorry, I did this to, I'm putting, this is an ongoing thing. We hope that you will, you hope you will use each other and use us. I'm putting my email in the chat. And if you'd like to, you know, ask me any questions or follow-ups, please feel free. Anne, yes.
May I do a plug for the Empathy Cafe series on Saturday mornings UTC time at 7 a.m. On the Extinction Rebellion principles. And this Saturday, it's regenerative cultures. And you'd be welcome. And the more facilitators, the better. So if you'd like to come and do some facilitating at that, please feel free to come.
Yes, we have some wonderful people in Australia, facilitators. And then Marta and Carolina are doing European trainings as well. We invite you to take their trainings just to see how that is. Okay, that's great. All right, if there's nothing else, Lou, anything that I missed?
No, just thank you, everyone. Really
yeah, thank you, everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, hope to see you around.
Thanks,
Okay.
Oh,
See you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Great to meet all of you.
Everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Hands, we got to do the. Edwin loves that.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Bill and Lou, for all your support
Oh,
and help.
thank you for
Thank
coming.
you, Sarah.
Thanks,
Thank
Sarah.
you,
Thank you
both of you, for your patience
Thank you,
and
Katrina.
understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Hey,
Just want to
Nish.
say thank you, Bill. Thank you, Lou. It was really amazing to experience your presence again. And most likely I'll see you in the next cohort. I'm just going to keep coming back.
Great.
Great. Yeah.
Love to have you. Hope to work with you a lot in the
Bye.
future. It's really great.
Bye.
Thank you, Anish.
Bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yep.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
how'd it go for you?
Oh, just fine. Yeah.
Yeah, when, my only regret is that people didn't
Oh.
get to have a very long